This is not a dream. What's happening to this place?
January 31st, 1999. 20 years ago today, Konami tried to breach the American survival horror market with Silent Hill. Silent Hill was exclusive to the Sony PlayStation, and even though it was produced by Japanese Konami, it was released first in North America, followed by Europe on February 24th, and finally Japan on March 4th. Development for this game was carried out by Team Silent, a group that consisted of staff members that failed at other Konami projects and were one foot out the door before taking on this project, and the success of Silent Hill left them with jobs at Konami, at least for a little bit. Silent Hill was a game of exploration, combat, and puzzle solving. By all definitions, it's a survival horror game. The game primarily utilizes a third-person view camera, but often in the game a drastic switch in angles happens to build tension and aims to disorient the player. Most survival horror games of the time shifted through a variety of camera angles. Silent Hill wanted the third-person view to dominate the game, to make the times when the camera angles did change much more drastic and impactful. One of the more important aspects of the game is that you play as Harry, a normal dude. He's not a soldier or a superhero or anyone of interest. He's just a normal-ass dude, and that's reflected in the gameplay. He can't take many hits, he gasps for breath after he's sprinting for a while, and his firearm accuracy is pretty subpar. Missing shots is frustratingly common. Like I said earlier, Silent Hill was Konami's attempt to breach the United States market after the success of Resident Evil by Capcom. Team Silent was put on the project by Konami because the members of the team were not compatible with other teams. They were artistic and talented, but also very unique, which is why they were all one foot out the door. But Silent Hill was a project that they could shine on. They wanted to appeal to Western horror trends, but also they wanted to make something different, something a little worthwhile. They wanted to make a masterpiece, a game to be remembered, and they went about this by pursuing psychological horror, a fear of the unknown, a play at the player's emotions, a way to have them scared more deeply than simply fighting a monster. The whole game revolved around this idea. The plot was made vague and occasionally contradictory to leave its true meaning in the dark, to make players reflect on all the moving parts of the story. The town of Silent Hill is the melting pot of towns of Western literature and films that the Japanese Team Silent took influence from when studying what type of horror people in the United States were into. They decided to follow the trend of the main character Harry, who's just a normal dude, and have this game take place in just a normal place. This is no secret laboratory or military base or anything like that. It's just a normal US town with a normal US dude till shit hits the fan and you find an autopsy on the fence in an alley. The plot of this game is a beautiful, dark, twisted fantasy.
Cheryl? Is that Cheryl?
The game opens with Harry driving to Silent Hill with his daughter Cheryl for a vacation. They get into a crash after Harry swerves to dodge a random lady in the road. Harry wakes up later on, Cheryl's missing, and he runs through this seemingly deserted town with snow falling out of season to find his missing daughter. You start finding mangled dog corpses, blood smears, and eventually bodies, all while a distant siren is blaring louder and louder, and the sky is becoming darker and darker, realizing at one point the only light is the single match that you're holding as you run through the alleys. The camera starts whipping around, keeping you disoriented to where you are and where you're going, and then you find it. A mangled body strung up on the fence. There's no going back. These little creatures come at you with knives and swarm you, trying to slash your ankles. You have no weapons, you have no way to fight back. You try to run, but every exit is blocked off. You panic, and then you die. And for a brief moment, you think, what the fuck? And then you wake up in a diner with a lady cop, a normal human being. You talk, she hands you a gun, and a damn Aerodactyl flies through the window to claw your eyes out. That's the whole game in a nutshell, a strange chain of odd events with unknown encounters that you never quite know which ones are real and which ones are nightmares. The whole game is keeping you unsettled and uncomfortable. The rest of the story is more complex than quantum deep space basket weaving, so I'm not going to bother discussing it more in this video. The main thing you need to know is the discomfort that you feel at all times in this game. Most of the game's mechanics add to the state of suspense. There's things like lighting, which for the majority of the game is provided by a pocket light that you keep. The game is mostly filled with fog and darkness, and you have to play around this, such as if it's too dark you can't even use your map to find out where the hell you're going. You also get a radio at the beginning shortly after getting the gun. This radio, you find out, is your monster detection radar. It'll static when an enemy is near. You may think that'll take away from the suspense, but on the contrary, it fuels it. When that static is going off, you don't know where the enemy is. Every turn you take, there might be something there, but you just don't know for sure. You just know that something is there. And it adds to the fear of the unknown, and paired with the low visibility in the game and the disorienting camera, it just builds suspense. The whole game is a mixed bag between exploring the town or exploring a building. Building segments are focused on key items and puzzle solving, and the town is generally exploration and vague hints scattered about. Buildings like the hospital are filled with zombie nurses and doctors, and the sound design really shines in places like this. You'll encounter fake slams and cries that make you feel like something is behind the door, but nothing is there. And the same slam will happen later on, and then a nurse is chasing you down the hall. You don't know which ones are real or fake, again adding to this perpetual tension of the game. Other than the sound effects, the music of this game is beautifully terrifying. Some of the best music in a horror game. There's no cliche violent buildup or anything, it's just straight industrial gritty slamming and grinding. It's barely music. It's more just sounds designed specifically to make you panic. Most of the sounds were made by distorting a dentist drill, if that makes it any clearer for you. Here, just listen to this boss fight when you fight the incubus at the end. This game was a nightmare to me both as a kid and now. I wrote this script while sick and taking NyQuil, and let's just say my dreams were not pleasant. The legacy Silent Hill has left is just what Team Silent wanted. It's a staple in survival horror and competes with Resident Evil when you talk about the greatest of the genre. Reviews at the time were all positive. Some thought it was a shameless clone of Capcom's title, but others saw the unique beauty of the game. Edge described it as a near-perfect simulation nightmare. They, along with most others, loved the contrast to Resident Evil's visceral and action-oriented gameplay, as Silent Hill was psychological at its core, and the main mission was to keep you uncomfortable. Silent Hill was also praised for its use of 3D environments. There was no pre-rendered scenes like most games of the time, and even though the hardware limitations meant the draw distance was laughably short, they used this to their advantage and made the city filled with a dense fog. Even though the sequels did not follow as closely as the original, Silent Hill paved the way for psychological horror, focusing on atmosphere more than visceral in-your-face horror, and for that reason Silent Hill is one of my favorite horror games of all time. I'm craving a remake, even though Konami most likely will never do that. They've never liked the project initially, and even after a success, it was just a paycheck to them. Konami makes beautiful games, but as a company they are terrible to their IPs, and unfortunately Silent Hill suffers because of that. The beautiful demo starring Normus Reedus a few years back got trashed for no apparent reason. Everybody loved the demo and so many copies were downloaded, so a remake of the series isn't looking very likely. Anyway, let me know what you think. Did you play Silent Hill? Did you enjoy it as a kid? Do you enjoy psychological horror as a genre, or do you prefer games that are horror based but you can fight the monsters and maybe a little more gory? Comment below. I'd love to chat with you on this. Leave me a like on the video if you had a good time, and subscribe if you want to see some more content like this in the future. Until next time, peace.
Everybody let me hear you say, oh yeah, hold your hands in the air and wait for my, you just don't care. And if you like fishing grits and all that pimp shit, everybody let me hear you say, oh yeah.